For now, let's move on to our next segment, website stories. So this is where we choose one article, one video, one podcast, something we can review and react to help us understand what it means to be a child of a website today. So we've chosen an article from Inc.com. It was written by Carl Orr, the founder of Rise Digital in Philadelphia, USA, guiding your website through its 4 stages of growth. And the reason why I chose this article, Jonny, because it plays to the advice that I give to my customers, which is your first website is never the website. You've got to understand that there's going to be an evolution of your thinking, your mindset, your skill set as a website manager and so on. And what you want to do is understand that it may take actually 2 or 3 iterations before you finally have the website. So if I was to take you through the 4 stages of growth for your website, and then what we can do is get your reaction. You can just hear a bit of noise in the background, Jonny, so I'm going to ask you to mute the mic if you don't mind. So phase number 1 of that website growth is do it yourself. Now, I'm going to go back to that. There's no shame in using DIY solution. I'm going to tell you why. Phase 2 is that kind of startup mentality where you've learned from the DIY stage, and the likelihood is you'd be concerned about things like the speed of pages being loaded, the navigation is reviewed completely to become more intuitive. We've created a more seamless journey for the visitor in and around the product pages and the blog section and so on. And you've started to gather social proof like reviews, testimonials, and case studies. Phase 3, the established business. You're going to have more case studies. You're going to have more testimonials. You're going to have a more content-rich blog because that's the evolution of the business. But also, you'll be using more data for your decision-making around the website experience. And we're looking also about this website to start to bring value outside of the marketing and sales function. So other departments can start to use it, either to access data or to use it either sometime as a behind the scenes stuff with a login, or they can use it for their own systems. And then final phase, and that's only for some of the businesses, is the enterprise solution, where we enter the high traffic form of infrastructure and applications. We're getting all departments now using the online destination, and we have better integration with solutions and so on. And you certainly have a more challenging job because you're looking after the customer's needs, your employees' needs, and stakeholders. But we have a do-it-yourself, startup, established, and enterprise. These are the 4 stages. And very, very quickly on the do-it-yourself phase 1, this is the most important phase, oddly, because this is where you're going to learn more about yourselves as individuals in the team. You're going to learn about your working preferences. You're going to understand what it means to run a website so much more, so that you can then bring all that learning and all that skill set and move on to the startup stage. So don't feel tempted to leap ahead and say, you know what, I'm fine. I've got the money. I'm going to go straight into phase 2 or 3. The DIY stage is so vastly important.
I always say, think about the minimum viable product, the MVP, because when you're producing a brand new website, it's so many times, and I see so many clients suffer from this, that they want it absolutely perfect, to be all singing, all dancing, to have all the functionality right from day one. And the reality, as like you just said, it's one of the biggest learning phases, is that initial phase. And no one is out there waiting for you to have your all singing, all dancing website. What they are out there is looking for what presence you have online. And if you have nothing, you better, nothing. You're better having something that's polished and clean and simple, compared to not having anything, or having something so complicated that it takes so long for it to get there, that by there's been many months or years that have passed by. So I think it's really important to see these different stages, and to see the first stage as what's the minimum that we could have up and live, and what can we learn throughout that process, and how can we then start engaging with other stakeholders, like you talked about the third stage. We might start engaging with staff, etc., for login areas or whatever else it might be. So yeah, I like piecing it down and making you really think and home in that you just need what's the minimum that looks really nice and what steps can we take afterwards.
Well, I liked about this article by Carl Orr. I kind of knew it because it was my experience, but never was expressed so clearly in the past. Excusez-moi. And people understand the do-it-yourself doesn't mean a poor website. It means a simple website. And nowadays, there are so many online applications and solutions that have been mentioned on the show that can give you that elegance, that kind of professionalism, and you just stick to the key messages. What do you do? Who do you do it for? And why should they choose you? And then you learn in the process what the time it takes to run a website, how you need to be organized, how you need to plan your content ahead. You start to learn the beginning, what it means to, have a search engine optimization. You start to understand how to organize workflows and processes so that when you get to phase number 2, the startup, then we're in a position to delegate, we're in a position to appoint, third party suppliers and so on. But you do that from a position of understanding what it's like. You felt it, yourselves, by the challenges, the disappointment, the kind of scratching you had moment thinking, what is that not working? So as you can tell from this conversation, I'm a huge fan of phase 1, do it yourself.
And going and just reminding that, bite size it down, take some small steps, get something live, and then consider what else you can add on to it and learn as you go.
Superb.